Hello, welcome to NurseWorks in association with Tropical Pine Tree. We're going to talk about staffing now, and you need to know which individuals are hired and which ones are contracted into the facility. Each agency coming in has different standards or rules. In this section, the formula for staffing is specified. Find out if you're getting the amount of care and staffing promised to you. Before I get into the very complex subject of staffing, I would like to read to you a story that I wrote. It's using fictional characters that actually supplement a news article I saw in 2016. The story is about a nurse who was contracted into a nursing facility for the night. How she gave her patient extra medication to have her sleep so she could steal the wedding ring right off her finger. Emma was born in 1925. She lived in an orphanage in Tennessee. There was a plantation next to the highway. At age 6, Emma was sent to work the plantation until she was 18. The orphanage routinely farmed out the children to earn income. Emma lived on a plantation with approximately 100 other children. It built cinder block, one-room buildings on the property where the children slept on cots lined up 20 to a hut. At 5 a.m., the children were lined up and fed before beginning a long day of work. They worked from sunup to sundown. They each had the same quota, whether very young or an older teenager. If a child didn't meet that quota, they would not be fed the next day. Emma recalled when measles ravaged the camp one year. She said being sick didn't mean you got out of work, you just worked sick. She remembered children who died on their cots, overworked and exhausted. The children's bodies were just taken away, and Emma never saw them again. The children working on the plantation weren't given new clothes, and they didn't have shoes as they were constantly walking in the mud of the plantation. The huts were very hot in the summer and very cold in the spring and the fall. There was no time to be a child. Upon turning 18, Emma was turned loose into society. She got a job in a dairy, and that is where she met her husband, Albert. One day he proposed. When they were married, he gave her the best ring he could afford. She cherished it. She stared at it for hours, hardly able to believe anything as lovely belonged on her finger. They worked hard, saved, and eventually bought the dairy. In those days, milk was delivered to your doorstep because of lack of refrigeration. But as years passed, the supermarkets took away the need for door-to-door delivery. Emma and Albert had purchased a home and raised 4 children. Emma and her ring were the source of pride in the family. She displayed it prominently in every photograph. She looked at her ring as more than the love her and Albert shared, but also that she was free from hard labor. It was her emancipation. It was late in 2001 when Albert took sick and died. As time went on, the family noticed Emma forgot things such as where the grocery store was, and even their names. She became unsteady when she walked. Family finally admitted Emma into a nursing home. Her forgetfulness increased until she forgot her beloved Albert even existed. One day a traveling nurse gave Emma an extra dose of evening painkiller, and while Emma slept, the nurse removed Emma's wedding ring. The nurse pawned her ring in a neighboring city. And when Emma woke the next morning, she didn't remember she even had a ring. It was her children who discovered it was gone and called the authorities. Thankfully, the ring was found and returned. The story of Emma and Albert is a true story, and the story of the nurse who gave medicine in order to make a woman fall asleep heavily and stole the ring was also true. Now I want to move on to staffing. How does staffing affect you, and how does it affect the care the nurses can give? Information in this section will explain who your caregivers are. It will differentiate between fact and fiction. Staffing ratios. The federal government mandates a staffing tally from every nursing home to ensure the patients are all receiving enough care. This is why facilities tally every day. calculating patient counts and staffing ratios. Staffing ratios are not calculated shift by shift, but over a 24-hour period. The tally can cover a nursing shortage by giving them the capability to make it appear they have increased staff during high-need periods, but in reality they have cut back staff during what is considered slower times. Some unscrupulous facilities will cover staffing shortages by adding an office staff or management who have a nursing license into the tally, even if they do absolutely no patient care. In theory, if one looks at the 24-hour count, there is always enough staff. There is leeway in state and federal guidelines. A nursing home does not have to meet staffing levels every single time. It means you are paying for a level of staffing which simply does not exist. Expect change by catching them at their own game. Nursing homes try to increase Medicare payments by inflating the resident count or to get rid of patients who will cost them money. For instance, a resident only has to be in the facility 1 minute to count as an entire day. That 1 minute will translate into 24 hours of Medicare payout. Staffing counts are usually done at midnight when there is a fairly stable patient count. It is imperative to the facility to get rid of all excess patients before midnight, and because it gives the next day a chance to require less staff. One way managers do this is by telling nurses to send patients, especially hospice patients, to the hospital if they will die before midnight. It is a sad truth. Many people die in the parking lot, either on their way to the hospital or their way to a nursing home, depending upon which facility is trying to keep their death per patient numbers down. It is a numbers game. Keep an eye out for the next segment soon to be published. Thank you for watching. If you found our video helpful, please pass it along to somebody else. And be sure to like us and subscribe. You can support us through Patreon. Look at our cool rewards.